All right. Judeo-Christian. We know about Judeo-Christian. What does that mean? What's Judeo? Okay, what's Christian? Okay, it's actually a relationship. But Christian, Judeo. What's Judeo? No, it's Judo. Judeo. Judeo-Christian. Old Testament and New Testament. Jewish and Christian. What church did Jesus go to? He went to the Jewish church. He was a Hebrew. Okay, so it's a Christianity is a continuation of the Hebrew religion. All right. So, Judeo-Christian influence. What would that be? What's the Old Testament and New Testament called? Boy, I got a lot of work here. See, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. What's the Bible? Yes. Old Testament, New Testament. Because America is a Western nation. What does Western mean? There's Eastern civilizations and there's Western civilizations. The world history. What did y'all learn about that? What's Western? Is this okay? Is this better, worse? Worse? Okay. What's Western civilization? What's that?
Western.
What's in the West?
Gold.
No. There's Eastern civilizations and there's Western civilizations. Where did Western civilizations start? Europe. Europe is West because what's East? Asia, China. You have Asia and China, Asian civilizations. You have Western civilizations, which is Europe. The Middle East is what? What are we talking about? What countries are we talking about? It's just a world out there. Y'all need to be aware of this. What's the Middle East? Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Israel. That's the Middle East. And you had the East, which was Asia, and the West, which was Italy. You know, the Roman Empire. That was the Western civilizations, and that branched off into Europe. So we are a Western nation because we came from Europe, and those traditions came from Europe. And so our laws in Europe, in Western civilization, are based on the Bible. Oh, believe the Bible. Okay, kill people, that's fine. The Bible says don't kill people. The Bible says don't have sex outside of marriage. That causes a lot of problems. Anyways, what is a lot of Middle Eastern law based on? Quran. Sharia law. If you ever hear Sharia, this is for free. Sharia law. That is law based on the Quran. That's the one that said women are worthless and have no rights. That's Sharia law. I heard a Muslim cleric, which I guess is another word for preacher, say one time, you don't beat a woman like you would a dog. More like a child. So at least I give them that. They've grown a little bit. You don't beat a woman like a dog. So hats off to like Saudi Arabia. Women can drive now in Saudi Arabia. What? Oh my gosh. Next thing you know, they have like rights and stuff. Anyway. That's called sarcasm. Okay, the Enlightenment. We talked about this. What's the Enlightenment? 1600s to 1700s. What was the focus of this Enlightenment thinking? Humans have rights. Human rights. And what's going on at the same time as the Enlightenment is developing? Colonies, United States, America. At the same time. Not a coincidence. Oh, we're doing good. Really happy. William Blackstone. This is a guy you've never heard of. He's pretty important. Bless you. He's boring, but you gotta have boring people. Boring people cure diseases and figure out solutions to problems. We need boring people, right? William Blackstone was a English lawyer and a judge. So he was involved in legal stuff, the judicial system in England during the 1700s. He wrote books on English law. Am I getting tired? I'm getting tired just writing this. Books on English law. Now that's important. Well, I don't have to read them. And these writings, these books became the basis of American law. Influence on American law. Very boring, but you gotta have that. You gotta have some boring people. Boring stuff. They do the important stuff. Boring people do the important stuff. If it was up to me to cure some disease, I'd be on it about 5 minutes and I'd be done. Just work out. So I tell them, Christy, just work out. That's what cures all the diseases. Go get your blood pumping. So just tell the man to shut up and work out, and that'll fix all your sick problems. That's what's worked for me. Ignore them and work out. Get your blood pumping. If you think about being cold, what are you going to be? Cold. If you think about being hot, what are you going to be? So don't think about that. No, think about being hot, you're going to be hot. Whatever you think, that's what you're going to be. Huh? I still don't understand the sweatshirt in August and September when it's 95.
Well, they're thinking they're not hot, so they're not.
But when you have that, but when you have that, now you're negating that thought because now you have a hot sweatshirt on.
They're feeling cold.
No, not us. It's 80% humidity. It's 98 degrees. You can't be hot or you can't be cold out there.
Well, you're sweating so much, you're cold.
No, then you stink and it gets hot. I swear, yesterday it never got chilly, ever, not one time. All right, French and Indian War. Who fought in the French and Indian War? The French and the British. The French and the Indian were versus the British. Now the Indians hated the English because the English came in and they settled. They did settlements. What's a settlement? What's that? A town, cities, permanent stuff. The French came in and wanted to kill animals and make money and leave. Now they did set up some outposts, Detroit, Terre Haute, Des Moines, Montreal, all the Mississippi, New Orleans, Mississippi, St. Louis, all that up into Canada. But the French liked them because the Indians respected them. Now, I don't know if they weren't just using them. They said, hey, the Indians can help us get some animals, so let's see what they want. And they weren't pushing the Indians out. The English were pushing the Indians out. So the French and the Indians fought the British over territory. This is in the 1760s. And the British won. What language do they speak in Canada?
French.
And
English.
English. That's one of the biggest. America, we had the Civil War and racism. Canada has language. The people in Ottawa and the northeast part of Canada hate all the other Canadians because they ain't real Canadians. They speak English. They speak the real language. They fight over. I mean, they're mad at each other over that. Anyway, the reason Canada has British background is because it's French and Indian War. Now, when you fight a war, it means it affects three things. What three things get affected when you fight a war?
Money.
Men, money, and stuff. No, but girls, okay, back then, no, girls weren't involved. Men, money, and stuff. If you lose the war, what do you lose? Men, money, and stuff. If you win the war, what do you lose? Men, money, and stuff. If you lose more of it. Maybe not. Maybe it costs more money to win. I don't know. So, because of this right here, mainly that, Parliament decided to do what? Because of the war debt. They're going to tax the colonists. Is that logical? Yeah, how come? No?
There's a war for their money.
Yeah, they were defending them. They're the ones that benefited. England benefited, like, stuff-wise. I mean, yeah, we have this resources. They benefited some, but they were protecting them. So it makes sense that they should help pay for it. Am I going too fast? If I ever am, slow me down, yell at me, whatever. So we're good so far. We understand. We had this French and Indian War, the French and Indians versus the British. Cost men money and stuff. Britain won. Now they got this debt. Don't ask me where it came from. I don't know. Don't know who they borrowed it from. Don't know how that worked. Today you just go, and all the countries just kind of. Actually, no, we do have countries. Do you all have savings bonds? Grandma bought you a savings bond when you was born? Just know maybe if I heard those, you've learned the savings bonds before. That's the debt. You're loaning the government money and you expect to be paid back plus interest. That's most of the debt is owed to us. Now, why did many colonists not believe Parliament had the right to tax the colonies? Go back to what we learned Friday. No taxation without representation. Okay? Because Parliament means what? Well, who said that? What was it? People. Parliament represents the people. And so, what did I tell you the English people understood completely? Their rights. They knew these rights. It was important to them. So they said, the people are the ones that have say-so over their taxes. They have say-so over their taxes. There were no representatives from the colonies. They did not have a say-so in their taxes. The colonists, no say-so in Parliament. Now don't draw the arrow unless it makes sense. But their rights are that the people have a say-so over their taxes. They had no say-so in Parliament because they had no representation in Parliament. So they got ticked. They were mad. They were upset. Everybody good? Way good. Now, the Stamp Act of 1765, what was the purpose of it? To pay for French and Indian War. The purpose of this, pay for French and Indian War. And it was a tax on almost everything. It was a tax on stuff you bought. Paper, sugar, molasses, all kind. Well, I don't know if this one had that. That came later. I know for sure. That came later. I'm not for sure if it was connected in there. It wouldn't surprise me though. But it was a tax on almost, you couldn't get away from it. So almost everything was taxed. Day-to-day items. When was the Revolutionary War started? That's a date you need to know. That year you need to know. And y'all know that. What was it? Everybody, go. What year? July 4th. 1776. If you don't know that by now, you know it now. 1776. That's important. That's where America started. So we're still 10, 11 years away from that. So they're ticked, but they ain't ticked enough to go up against the greatest military in the world. Did America have a military? No. Can't we get ahead of myself? Let's say the Packers come to town. They start shoving old ladies around, stealing people's sandwiches, just being a general nuisance. Are we going to do a whole lot to them? Why not? We don't like pain and broken bones and death. So it's going to take a lot for us to go, hey, Friday night, 7 o'clock, be there! Yeah, we're going to play the Packers. What's going to happen? Crush. Maiming, destruction. So that's why America didn't say, yeah, you better stop, because they didn't want to die or get hurt. Now we're going to get in a little bit, we're going to talk about what led to this. But March 5th, 1770, this is not a date you really need to know. But does anybody guess what happened here? Something you learned about 8th grade last year. Boston what? Boston Massacre. Remember hearing about y'all learned about that? Okay? The Boston Massacre is a lie. Y'all probably learned about that, right? What's a massacre? Like bodies everywhere. Blood, guts. That's a massacre. Did that happen? No. Not even close. Now this is a wood carving by Paul Revere. This is the Boston Massacre. Here you have British troops, and what are they doing? They don't have machine guns. And here's the poor, helpless colonists just getting decimated. It's not what happened. It's not what happened at all. What happened at the Boston Massacre? Yeah, soldiers were there, and people were mouthing. Yeah, they were chucking rocks at them. Life lesson. If you get pulled over, don't start yelling at the cop. They might be wrong. Don't start yelling at the cop. Don't punch a cop. Don't pull a gun out on a cop. Don't shoot a cop. Because if you were innocent, are you innocent anymore? No. So here's guys with guns. And the colonists, I don't know how many, I don't know if they had guns or not, I wasn't there, I don't know. But they're mouthing and yelling and they're throwing snowballs with rocks in the middle of them. That's stupid. That's really stupid. And then someone got shot. So one of the British people shot an American. I don't blame them. They don't want to be there. They're doing what they're told. And they're getting snowballs. You throw a snowball at me with rocks in it, I'm probably going to respond, especially if I have a gun. If it happens more than once. And you're cussing me and calling my mom names, are you going to do something? I have to confess a sin to y'all. I messed up Friday. I messed up. Big time Friday. I broke one of my rules. I usually don't hear anything. I heard something Friday. And I turned around. And I stared. I had no idea. I just stared. Because I was mad. I was angry inside. So I stared at him. Whoever it was, I was just staring. And I turned back around. And I turned around and stared again. Just to make sure you know. Coward. I don't need to do that. I don't need to respond to, if an idiot calls you an idiot, you're doing good. If an idiot thinks you're an idiot, things are great. If you start acting like an idiot, then they're right. Hello. Hey. Right. Okay. All right. Good. Okay. Now we'll write a name down here. Crispus Attucks. You ever heard of him? I'm gonna misspell it, I'm sure. Crispus Attucks. You ain't never heard of nobody named Crispus Attucks before. So you'll remember that name the rest of your life. Crispus Attucks. He was I believe, a freed slave. And he was shot at the Boston Massacre. So in my mind, that makes him the first casualty of the revolution. Because the revolution hasn't started, bless you. But this is part of the revolution. Pre-revolution. If you get hurt in pre-game, you got hurt at the game. Game hadn't started yet, but you got hurt at the game. So, he got hurt in pre-game. Crispus Attucks. All right. So what happened there in 1770? Boston Massacre. Now, I'm not saying Paul Revere's an idiot. He might have thought this is what happened. He was there. He might have, because of your emotions and your feelings, you can maybe see, you can turn a situation into something it's not. Like little Christy the other day was upset about something. Remember I told you? Guys, what do girls want? No, they want you to listen. They don't want the problem fixed. They want you to listen. And you sit there. Because you have to fix things. Guys have to fix things. And so I sat there listening and didn't fix anything. And she goes, thank you. I said, I didn't do anything. I did nothing. I said, that's what I did. But I don't get it. I don't understand. So he might have really seen that. But he also, if you see a wreck, let's say you get in a wreck, and you're at an intersection and somebody taps the back. Do you go and tell someone that? You know, I was at an intersection, this guy just tapped me from behind and just barely hit me. You know, oh my gosh, you ran into me, he's going to fall. You want people to feel sympathy, and so we exaggerate what happened. I really kind of think that's what Paul Revere was doing. He was exaggerating. He hates the British. He hates what the British are doing to him. And so he kind of exaggerated. All right, Samuel Adams. There's the Adams boys in Massachusetts. They were founding fathers. John was the bitter, angry one. I don't know if Sam was bitter and angry. What didn't happen in the 1770s? That's a loaded question. What did they not have? They didn't have communication. They had newspapers and they had letters. So if something happens over here, you don't know about it unless someone sends you a letter or you read it in the newspaper. Right? So what he did, he started the committees of correspondence. I'm going to misspell this, but who cares? I don't know. Might be an S, might be an E, might be an E. I don't know. What's correspondence? What's a correspondent? If you're a correspondent, what do you do for a living? When you watch the news, we go now to our correspondent in Israel. What's a correspondent? Like a reporter. Is a correspondent. Correspondence is letters. So what he did, he would write letters to Thomas Jefferson in Virginia, or to Benjamin Franklin in Pennsylvania, and say, here's what's going on. Here's the Boston Massacre happened today. Here's what happened today. And then they would send back, we had no idea that was happening. Here's what happened here. So they started telling each other what was going on. What is this the beginning of? What's that? No, Pony Express. No, that had a mail system. Now you have this bringing together of people. Before you had Virginia, you had Massachusetts, you had Pennsylvania. And now you start to have the beginning of, hey, we're in this together. It's not just me involved. It's everywhere. And so this is bringing them together. Bringing the colonies together. And what's the backbone of this? Anger. Frustration. What's the backbone of it? Not just taxes. We have rights as English citizens that are not being followed. Taxes is an example of one of those rights. But it's this idea that we have rights. We're English citizens, and that means something. It's the only place in the world we have rights, and those are not being followed. Are they willing to die yet? Not yet. They're not. Now, the Boston Tea Party happened because of a tax. And this was an act of war. Whose tea was it? The king's. Whose ship was it? The king's. What did they attack? The king's tea on the king's ship. That is an attack. That is an act of war. So you could argue that this was actually the first attack from the colonists of the Revolution. They didn't dress up like Indians to make the British think the Indians did it. That was a joke. They knew the British knew who did it, and they kind of wanted them to. They kind of daring them to know. You want to hear a semi-funny Boston Tea Party story? Semi-funny? Maybe semi-interesting. When I was 8, my dad had a meeting in, I guess it was Baltimore, And so we took this week-long trip and went to all these little places. We went to Boston, and we were going to the Boston Tea Party ship. They still got it there. It's on this long pier. Well, Mom let me have her little Instamatic cameras, a little rectangle camera. And they had on the pier, they had these metal railings along the side. Well, I stuck my hands through the railing so I could get a good picture. Took a picture of the ship and pulled my hand back. I was about 8. My thumb hit the bar and it knocked the camera off into the water. I remember seeing it kaplunk and started crying. I was scared to death that my mom was going to make me jump in after it. And all I could picture, I pictured these dead Tea Party skeletons down there and the camera floating down in their lap. And I would have to go dive down into the Tea Party skeletons and get the picture. And I was also mad because we'd been to the Naval Academy and all these cool pictures of like statues and airplanes and jets and that was gone now too. So never got that back. So I don't know what, it might be down there with the skeletons still. Today at Boston Harbor, a camera was found in the midst of skeleton. Now, see, I was right. All right, is that the last one, I guess? Fire it up. Okay. Get you a new piece of paper. We're going to start this one. Not going to come near to finishing. Just going to do about 2 or 3 of them. Yes. We were going to do 1 of these. Everything's good. My life is really good. So title it this so we know it's different. That's for me, lady. Really has no effect on y'all. That's really for me. You just put chapter 2, page 4050. All we're going to do is this one here. What do you need to have on there? Your name. Please put your name there. That's important. Now, the Parliament passed something called the Intolerable Acts. We're now voting on the Intolerable Act. No, did they call them? They didn't call them the Intolerable Acts. The Americans called them the Intolerable Acts. So you had the Boston Massacre, where shots were fired. Soldiers were attacked. If you're the British government, soldiers were attacked. You have the Boston Tea Party. You have all this stuff happening. If you're the British government, what do you got to do? You got to put an end to this. We've got to calm things down and provide security. So I understand why they did it. The Americans see this as an attack on their rights as English citizens. The British government is just getting things under control. This place is out of control. You got to get control of this. So the first thing, we have martial law in Boston. According to what we wrote Friday, what cannot be done without a war? Martial law. From the British standpoint, is this kind of close to a war? Yeah. From the American standpoint, their rights are being violated. This can't happen, and it's happening. There was 25-cent troops. Now this one for sure, we can all look at that and say, yep, that can't happen. No matter what, that was illegal. There was the tax thing. And they were putting colonial leaders in jail. if you're talking about attacking the British government, fighting the British government, disobeying the British government, what's another word for that? Big word. Treason. So if you're the British government, you're saying we got to stop these. Now, they were throwing them in jail without a trial. Can that be done under British law? No. I did write something down Friday that I should have wrote down. The king cannot interfere with elections or like disband parliament. If the king doesn't like what parliament's doing, the king can't say, well, I'm doing away with parliament. Or interfere with elections. Well, guess what they were doing? They were interfering with elections. And they were disbanding colonial legislatures. Like Massachusetts colonial legislature, doing away with that. Doing away with Boston City Council stuff. So all these things added up to rights not being recognized. They were being violated. Did some of this stuff, was it warranted, some of this stuff, from the British standpoint, as what was going on in Massachusetts? I could argue, yeah, some of this, but this for sure, and this for sure. All right, we're done. Thanks a lot.
Okay.